Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on behalf of a special partnership with Alaska Public Media. It is Sunday, June 19th, 2022. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide, you can go to weather.gov. It is the National Weather Service's online presence website. It takes you to a map of the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii to the lower left. And you can click anywhere on that map. It's an interactive map that allows you to get forecast, watches, warnings, and advisories for anywhere in the country. Right now, as of this Sunday afternoon, mid-afternoon, we are seeing a number of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings for the central and northern plains, Nebraska up through the Dakotas and Minnesota, western Wisconsin, also down in southern parts of Louisiana. And then to the west, red flag warnings for portions of Utah and northern Arizona, and frost freeze advisories and warnings for south central Oregon and into northern and northeastern Nevada. But here in Alaska, we've seen cooler temperatures and areas of mainly light rain working their way across the southern mainland and now into the panhandle, and this pattern will continue through the night and into the day on Monday. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will also continue to pop up across interior areas, especially north of the Alaska Range through the Yukon Valley. And coming up here early Tuesday morning at 1:14 a.m. Alaska time, June 21st, the summer solstice for the Northern Hemisphere. And we are looking for some summer weather coming up. Drier and warmer temperatures across southwest and south central Alaska starting later this coming week, next weekend, and continuing into perhaps the early part of next week here to close out the month of June. Could be very warm across southwest and south central areas of the state. Speaking of warmer, Wainwright has been up around 60 degrees this Sunday afternoon with sunshine, warmest temperatures they've seen so far this season. The other morning, they were down to 28, a bit below freezing. Fort Yukon still more of those towering cumulus clouds building showers and widely scattered thunderstorms there around the Yukon Flats. Temperature there at 67 as of 2 p.m. And look at the rain along the northern Gulf Coast, Cordova. Moderate rain and pretty good fog there. Low clouds, 52 degrees. Sitka also getting in on some rain showers and fog and a temperature of 52. Those of you in the Panhandle enjoyed beautiful weather Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but as we were telling you, the clouds and rain would return, and they will continue here. That rain and will continue into the day on Monday and Tuesday. So a quick note here, the Alaska fire season for 2022 is off to a gangbuster start, not the kind of news you want to hear. As of June 18th, the other day, over 1 million acres have been burned, whether it's tundra or forest, and this is the earliest date to have over 1 million acres burn in the past 32 years. So not a good stat there. We're going to get a little break from the fire action here just with the cooler temperatures, areas of rain and rain showers across southern parts of the state and the Panhandle, but we expect scattered showers and wet thunderstorms in the interior. There's still the potential for a few new fire starts due to lightning strikes there in the interior where it's still very dry. But overall, lighter winds, but watch out around those thunderstorms. There could be some gustier winds that could fan up some flames if you get a lightning strike that starts a fire. Overall, though, we have much warmer and dry conditions returning to what I'd say southwest and south central Alaska later this week and especially next weekend. Otherwise, in the meantime, seasonable temperatures with some showers and thunderstorms continuing in the week ahead for the interior. You can see the fire danger has come down there through the Yukon Flats just because of the wetting rains and cloud cover and cooler temperatures. Where there is some sun, warmer temperatures, fire danger is very high in the area there, eastern Seward Peninsula and just along the middle and north of the middle Yukon River, Ambler, Kobuk, those areas there. So keep that in mind. At least, though, overall the state doesn't have quite the fire danger it did here a week or so ago, but I think that's going to be ticking back upwards here as we get this high pressure ridge rebuilding from areas of the Alaska Peninsula in through south central portions of the state. Temperatures are going to be heading upward, as will the drier conditions. Low pressure this afternoon is located south of Kodiak Island. We also have more moisture streaming northward toward Haida Gwaii and the south end of the Panhandle, all combining to produce more rain, especially across southeast Alaska and coastal areas of the Gulf. And as we go into the interior, we are also expecting scattered showers. You can see those beginning to mushroom there along the Yukon River, extending into northwestern Canada. Some of the clearest skies now are up through the northwestern portion of the state, including the Seward Peninsula. Low pressure this afternoon, again, is southwest of Kodiak Island. It is going to be moving eastward into the Gulf overnight and then into the day Monday, up there toward the northeastern Gulf, just offshore and weakening, with showers and areas of rain, most persistent rain continuing on Monday across the Panhandle, where it will linger, become more showery, light showers in nature here for Tuesday across the Panhandle, with scattered showers and thunderstorms continuing across portions of the southeastern interior, as well as a little further north. Otherwise, out over the Bering, areas of low clouds, sprinkles, and fog. Low temperatures are going to generally be near 50 along the Yukon River, 40s to near 50 Panhandle, south central locations. Warming, though, along the middle Yukon River, 75-ish there, McGrath, especially up toward Ruby, and areas a little further north, say toward Bettles and Beaver. And then on Tuesday morning, lows again pretty similar, 40s to near 50 across south central areas, 40s and near 50 the Yukon River Valley. Outer areas of the Seward Peninsula and northwest coast could be in the 30s, and then we see the 70s there Tuesday afternoon, trying to show up on the west side of the Alaska Range, lower Kuskokwim, upper Kuskokwim River Basin up through McGrath, Fairbanks, and on over toward Fort Yukon. And here is the temperature outlook for June 25th through the 29th. This is provided by the Climate Prediction Center, and I want to talk a little more about this simply because the signature has been showing up, so it's a pretty good indication of likelihood we are going to see warmer temperatures across southwest, south central Alaska into parts of the northern Panhandle, June 25th through the 29th. So that would take us into next weekend, early the following week, as a ridge of high pressure is going to build from the eastern Aleutians and southwest part of the state northeastward. And this feature obviously leads to much warmer conditions as well as drier conditions. And if we take a look, we are anticipating precipitation to average below normal across the southeastern half of the mainland and especially in through coastal areas of the Panhandle and northern Gulf Coast. So this is going to allow the drying to return, and as a result, we do expect the fire danger then to creep back up across the southern interior and then up through portions of the central and east central parts of the state as we head toward the Alcan border. So keep that in mind, because this will likely be some of the warmest temperatures we've seen so far, seeing that the solstice occurs on Tuesday. Will be in summer season, and we can expect this for this time of year whenever we get one of these mid-upper level highs develop and take shape. So keep that in the back of your mind. Otherwise, enjoy a little cooler temperatures and some scattered showers here to take us through the early portion of this week before warmer and drier conditions develop late in the week ahead.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Let's look at your aviation weather now. If you have a flight planned Monday or on Tuesday, we'll continue to see widespread areas of smoky haze across much of the interior as the result of active wildfires, and certainly there could be areas of more enhanced smoke around and in the vicinity of some of these wildfires. There are over 100 of them burning now across the state. Also potential for an isolated thunderstorm there near Anatuvik Pass Monday morning in northwest there at Bettles. Otherwise, we expect MVFR conditions to overspread the Panhandle, IFR in the western, southwestern Gulf, and widespread IFR conditions from the Bering Strait down across much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. On Monday afternoon, scattered showers and thunderstorms possible from areas of the North Slope down through the Brooks Range and along the Yukon River. Also, areas of MVFR and rain showers will continue across the Panhandle and persist as we even go into Tuesday. Still widespread IFR there out back through the Bering Sea. And Tuesday morning, an isolated thunderstorm in the vicinity of Anatuvik Pass will persist. More widespread MVFR conditions up through the eastern Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, north central, or I should say northeastern Gulf Coast, in through the Panhandle, where the Panhandle will continue to see rain showers associated with low pressure in the Gulf. Back along the west, we expect widespread IFR conditions from the Chukchi Sea down through the Bering Strait, and again just off the west coast, coming inland there through portions of the western Seward Peninsula. Tuesday afternoon, scattered showers and thunderstorms from the Yukon Flats and the southeast side of the Brooks Range all the way down through 40 Mile Gold Country, Tanana Valley, and through the Alaska Range, and into the especially upper Susitna and Talkeetna mountains there. And then out to the west, we anticipate widespread IFR conditions from the Bering Strait down along the western and southwestern coast, and then in the southeast, still MVFR conditions with lingering rain showers across the Panhandle. And at Tuvik Pass, we'll see VFR conditions with an isolated storm possible in the vicinity of the pass on Monday. Same thing at Adigan Pass, VFR conditions, but expect some cumulus buildups and isolated shower storm in the vicinity of the pass. Lake Clark and Merrill should generally see VFR conditions on Monday, though MVFR as you fly further west of the west entrances. Same thing, Rainy Pass, VFR, but some MVFR as you fly west of the west entrance. Windy Pass, generally VFR conditions should prevail. Isabel Pass will see VFR conditions become MVFR with cumulus buildups, scattered showers, and best chance of thunderstorms flying north of the north entrance. Same thing at Metasta Pass, generally MVFR conditions with best chance of encountering a thunderstorm once you fly north of the north entrance. Tanita Pass should generally see MVFR conditions on Monday. Portage Pass starting out Monday morning, MVFR giving way to VFR conditions. And then finally, Chilkoot and White, we'll see up there in the far north end of the Panhandle, MVFR conditions with a chance of rain showers. And rain showers will be rather widespread across the remainder of the Panhandle, not just on Monday, but especially lingering into Tuesday. Freezing levels are highest across the interior, south side of the Brooks Range, north of the Yukon River, 8,000 feet plus back into northwest Canada. Those freezing levels fall off to around and below 4,000 feet as you get into the southwestern Gulf, North Pacific, associated with low pressure that's in the Gulf. And then back to the west, freezing levels come back up above 8,000 feet through the central and western Aleutians. Icing potential along the Gulf Coast associated with the cloud cover and light areas of light rain and light rain showers. Gulf Coast could see freezing levels between 6,000 and 13,000 feet. And then, as I mentioned, the threat of scattered showers and thunderstorms from areas of the central north slope on Monday down through the Brooks Range and especially through the Yukon Valley just north of the Alaska Range. Upper level jet stream winds, we see a jet core of over 100 knots out over the lower Gulf and North Pacific associated with the low pressure in the central Gulf at 30,000 feet. High pressure ridge back out there between the eastern and central Aleutians, 9,000 feet. Low pressure circulation continues in the Gulf. Strongest winds just south of Haida Gwaii to 60 knots. A broad belt of mid-level winds 45 to 55 knots from the Chukchi Sea down through the central Bering into the central Aleutians. And at 3,000 feet, we see the low pressure circulation that continues there in through the central Gulf. But most notable feature, ridge of high pressure there over the tip of the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians with a broad belt of 40-knot winds from the Chukchi Sea down across the Bering Strait into the central Bering Sea and western central Aleutians. This translates to the potential for surface to 3,000 foot isolated to considerable moderate turbulence in the northwest, St. Lawrence Island, and the western central Aleutians.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining me once again is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, or GINA, based at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Eric, welcome back to the show.
Well, Dave, it's great to be back. Thanks for inviting us again.
Sure thing. And today we want to talk about identifying burn scars. That would be the burned up area after a wildfire when the flames and the smoke are gone. We can see it if you drive by it on the roadway, of course, but from satellite, we can also identify those places on the land, right?
You know it. You know that expression, ouch, that's going to leave a mark?
Yeah.
After you bang your knee getting out of the car.
Oh yeah.
Well, the ouch, it's going to leave a mark, that also applies to the landscape. Whenever a wildfire ravages through, it's going to leave a mark on the landscape. After a wildfire burns out, this is called a burn scar.
Okay.
And you can ask yourself, well, that's interesting. We can see a burn scar from space. Then the question is, well, why does that matter?
Okay.
Who cares?
Yeah, fire's over.
Right, the fire is over. We don't need to worry about this anymore. It turns out you kind of do, because burn scars are important. There's this old rule of thumb in the weather business that flood follows fire. The action of the fire in killing off the vegetation, in baking, kiln drying the landscape a little bit, can hinder the land's ability to absorb rainfall. So if you have a fire, especially if it's in complex mountainous terrain. This is classic in California. It can happen somewhat in Alaska too. You get a wildfire in steep, hilly, or mountainous terrain, rips off all the vegetation off the landscape. Then 6 months later, there's a big rainstorm, and you get a flash flood in that area. So flood can follow fire. That's why you got to know where the burn scars are. Secondly, a fire needs fuel to maintain itself. So if there's an old burn scar left over from a year or two ago, and then another summer later here in Alaska in the interior, it's a big wildfire season. If there's a fire advancing toward an old burn scar, well, guess what? That old burn scar can be tougher terrain for that new fire to get through, because there's not as much fuel in that burn scar. So they almost act like a natural fire break. These are a couple of reasons why you need to know where those burn scars are. Alaska Fire Service has limited resources. They want to put their people and their equipment where it does the most good. They need to know, well, this is an area where there's no burn scar. We better put people here because that fire could really run.
So really important for weather forecasters and fire weather forecasters for sure.
Oh yeah.
But then how do weather satellites actually detect those burn scars?
Good question.
Thanks.
Well, let's turn the Wayback Machine to the summer of 2015. That was a very active year. We've got a picture here taken up in the White Mountains. This is one of the fires in progress that summer, and if you look real close, you can almost see Frodo throwing the ring into the volcano there. So that's quite the vision. Well, let's look at a visible image. Here we are in Alaska's interior. This is before the fires got out of the cage in early summer of 2015. Let's zoom into the western interior here. Again, this is a weather satellite image of visible light, what the human eye can see. We're into the middle reach of the Yukon Valley there in the western interior, Galena area. And this is just a beautiful visible day. Nothing much going on. It's in early June before the fires really got active. But then in 2015, the fires got loose, especially in that western interior. Here's another image. The same satellite pass as that visible image, but now we're not quite looking at visible light.
Very different.
There's a slight change here. This image incorporates something called the veggie band. 0.86 micron wavelength. The micron's very tiny, but that wavelength responds to vegetation, the chlorophyll. So trees and grasses reflect that part of the electromagnetic spectrum back to the satellite. And so the satellite sees that. When signal comes at that wavelength to the satellite, we know, there's some vegetation growing there. This is great. You can identify coastlines so easily because you go from vegetation to water. Turns out if you have a burn scar, guess what? You burned away the vegetation, so that's going to show up. We're going to do a before, during, and after kind of look here. And so we're looking at before. So in this image, we got a lot of green out there. That's wonderful. Another fun thing about this kind of imagery is you can see down in the Alaska Range in the southeast corner of the image, it's blue. That's glaciers and snow in the mountains. So this is not really what the human eye can see. This is these wavelengths are beyond human vision, but we've made them look certain colors. So the vegetation looks green. Now let's look at that same kind of satellite recipe, but during the fires. This is in July. The fires are loose. You can see the smoke in the middle of the image, the smearing look of the smoke, and then we can see some clouds that are white, icy clouds are blue. So this is in July of 2015. The fires are doing their thing. We're burning up millions of acres. Now let's go to September. The fires are out. The audience has left the theater. You know, the event's over, right? We're done. But guess what? Now look at those brown patches.
Look at that.
All of those places are where the fire has burned away the vegetation. So you can see where the fires were. You can add up these perimeters, get acreage burned and such. And so that's good to know. Now remember, flood follows fire, and these are also natural fire breaks. So you need to know where these guys are. In the course of the 2015 summer season, we went from before with not much burn scar in this area to just a couple months later, we can see so much burn scarring on the landscape. What's interesting too about the satellite and looking at burn scars is you realize that burn scars are the gift that keeps on giving. You can forget that a couple of years ago maybe there was a fire in a certain area, but the satellite won't forget. So in the summertime we get wildfires in Alaska, but guess what? In the visible imagery here, we can see the burn scars just a little bit, but they're not as prominent as in that veggie band. But then you can't see them at all if you cover them up with snow, right?
Exactly.
So here's an image from the middle of the winter time, and snow on the ground by this recipe looks blue. Again, these are wavelengths of light that the human eye can't really see. We're getting up into the infrared, near infrared, and the way we've assigned colors is if there's snow on the ground or there's a glacier, it looks blue, kind of intuitive. So this is early April of the following year, 2016.
Okay.
We're just about to get into breakup. We've got a lot of snow on the ground, and now it's all going to melt. And as the snow melts, then you get our final image here. Doesn't this look familiar? This looks like a lot of what we saw in September of the previous summer. So this is the spring of the next year. The fires themselves might not have overwintered, they're gone, but the fire scar does. And as the snow melts away, and then you have breakup, and then you have green up, whenever the leaves come out, the grass comes back, except in the burned areas, they're having a tough time because everything got burned off the previous year. So you can see these scars even the next summer, multiple years. It depends on what kind of vegetation there is. You know, some of the tussocky tundra grasses, they'll grow back really quick, but to get a forest to come back, that'll take much longer. So these burn scars, eventually the landscape will fill in the burn scar. It will heal itself, if you want to use that metaphor. But for the next few years, you can still keep track of these on satellite. And again, the reason we want to do that is that the burn scar can facilitate a flood, and it can act like a fire break. So there you are, the veggie band.
Tools. So if you're a weather satellite and you're looking at my bowl of vegetables here, you might be able to pick out which one's the pea, which one's the tomato, and which one's the carrot, and apply that information precisely to whatever it is you're working on there. That is really fascinating stuff, that we have that capability from so high above the planet Earth, and Alaska for that matter.
Yep, eat your veggies.
Yes, definitely. I think I will. I'm hungry. Thanks so much for joining us again, Eric, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you right here next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back, and now it's time for our marine weather. We start with the sea ice edge. Lower Chukchi Sea has a lot of open water. Still a little remnant ice there on the east side of St. Lawrence Island, south of the Bering Strait, Russian side, also up through areas of Kotzebue Sound along areas off of Kivalina and the Point Hope, and then up along the northwest Arctic coast. Ice still fairly in place between Utqiagvik and Kaktovik. However, east of Kaktovik, the Mackenzie River is causing the ice there to break up and begin to open up there. And as far as we just continue to watch for the ice to continue to melt off and some shifting with the winds that do result, and we'll get to that when we get to the Arctic region for the marine forecast. In the meantime, across the southeast portion of the state, inner channels of the Panhandle, south winds 10 to 20 knots, waves a couple of feet in Lynn Canal, but running 4 feet or so around Petersburg south through Metlakatla. Onshore flow southwest 15 to 20 knots south of Sitka, waves around 7 feet, but easterly flow from north of Sitka through Yakutat to 20 knots and waves of 6 feet, with a trough, low pressure trough that just kind of sits there off the coast. For Tuesday, though, we continue to see rain showers linger across the area, southeast to south winds across the inner channels, 15 to 20 knots, waves 2 to as high as 4 feet there through Lynn Canal. And then generally west to northwest winds for the outer Gulf Coast, with waves 4 to as high as 6 feet as you get west of Craig. Across the northwestern Gulf, off the Kenai, winds generally out of the northeast to northwest, 15 knots, waves 4 feet. Variable winds around the entrance of Cook Inlet. South to southwest winds 15 knots through middle and upper Cook Inlet, and variable winds 10 knots around Prince William Sound with a couple of foot waves. We'll see westerly winds 10 knots, a couple foot waves there in Prince William Sound on Tuesday. Variable winds off the Kenai to 10 knots. And westerly winds of 20 knots and waves around 5 feet at the entrance of Cook Inlet to just east-northeast there of Kodiak. Across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island on Monday, variable winds on the North Pacific Gulf side to 10 knots, waves 4 feet. North winds across Kodiak Island to 15 knots, waves 3 feet, Shelikof Strait, and then west to northwest winds 10 to 15 knots from Bristol Bay southwestward to north of Cold Bay with waves a foot or two. And on Tuesday, we expect southwest to west winds 20 to 25 knots in the vicinity of Kodiak Island with waves around 5 feet. Variable winds off of Sand Point, waves a few feet, and then westerly winds 15 to 20 knots from Cold Bay up through Bristol Bay with waves of 2 to 4 feet. Across the Aleutians on Monday, variable winds, eastern Aleutians around 10 knots, waves 2 to 3 feet, turning southerly and increasing 25 to 30 knots, especially AKwx westward through Kiska, with waves building from 5 to 9 feet across the far western Aleutians. And then on Tuesday, variable winds around 10 knots throughout the eastern portion of the Aleutians with waves running a few feet, but south to southeasterly winds from Atka and Adak westward at 20 to 25 knots and waves 5 to 6 feet, especially on the North Pacific side. Across the eastern Bering off the southwest mainland, and we're looking at winds south at around 20 to as high as 25 knots in the vicinity of St. Matthew, but variable around 10 knots in the vicinity of Nunavik Island and St. Paul and St. George. Across the region on Tuesday along the west coast, winds will generally be south-southwest, 20 to 25 knots, waves 4 to 6 feet, though as high as 8 feet in the vicinity of St. Matthew. And then across Arctic regions and the Bering Strait, north side of Nunavik, or north side of St. Lawrence Island, south winds 20 to 25 knots through the lower Chukchi Sea, waves 4 to 5 feet. Easterly winds along the Arctic coast, Kaptovik to Diadvik, with ice still in place. And then on Tuesday, look for southerly winds to 25 knots through the Bering Strait, lower Chukchi Sea, with waves 5 to 6 feet. And south to southeast winds across the areas of the Arctic coast, with still the ice remaining in place, though some movement likely possible pulling away from shore. And looking at the surface weather map, Monday, low pressure continues in the Gulf but weakening, providing additional rain showers to the Panhandle along the northern Gulf Coast. That low weakens, but light showers linger across the Panhandle in the Tuesday, with scattered showers and storms continuing across parts of the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.